So then when we look at this notion of understanding the world, we can look at it in a bunch of these ways here. I think I've already mentioned some of them, but certainly you want to be looking across the different areas of knowledge and looking for interesting theory. So you want to do some basic research into examples of interesting theory. Okay, when we look in the natural sciences, particularly in physics, there's some fascinating stuff in there with a unified theory of everything, and M theory, and so much interesting discussion just inside that one theory as to why it's necessary, as to why it's possible, as to whether it's even possible. When you get into that discussion will lead you into new places that you hadn't considered at this stage. The arts, you've got the theories of aesthetics, the interactions of psychology, narrative theory, sociology, the history of a particular of art. John Bergman, his book, his works about art will give you interesting discussion material in the human sciences. Complexity theory. This is wonderful stuff here, and the notion of understanding that, so you could be doing some research into that, and that would help you to answer the question as well. Then examples of multiplicities of theories, complexes of theories. Where are you going to get those examples from? And interestingly, you will find, I think, that you will end up in so there's other interesting examples here. So I think what I was talking about just then, before the phone interrupted me for the 3,000th time while I try to make this recording on this particular title, is integrated or interdisciplinary studies. The notion of interdisciplinary study and integrated theories, that stuff could be looked at. And there have been many prescribed titles in the past which deal with interdisciplinary studies. So it's possible for you to develop an argument in response to this title in the context of titles from the past on interdisciplinary studies. Anyway, if we proceed, we can see that we're going to arrive at the KQ. How do these examples help us to understand the world? This is just following on from the notion of the need to retain a multiplicity of theories. Why? How? And also within the context of the earlier part of the claim, which is dealing with the limitations. The limitations of a single theory implies the need. Why does it then mean that we need a multiplicity of theory? The structure of your Tok essay becomes implied that structure is going to require, well, what are the benefits of the multiplicity of theories? Benefits are going to be often pragmatic. How does pragmatism relate to the notion of understanding? Is there a connection there? Is understanding somehow separate from pragmatism? How are you going to define understanding? Is understanding going to be defined purely from a rationalist perspective rather than an empirical perspective? If it's an empirical perspective, then we're going to be leaning more towards a pragmatic notion of the value of knowledge and the value of understanding in any particular area of knowledge. Well, how do these examples that you have looked at up here, which are examples of complexes of theory, multiplicities of theories, how do those examples benefit us in the understanding of the world? And that notion, that structure of the essay, on the one hand we've got the limitations of single theory, on the other hand we've got the benefits of multiplicities of theory. So that structuring, that organization of your essay making it clear that way and making it simple that way also gives credibility and value and marks to the essay. Okay, hope that made sense. Why are multiple theories developed during a reasoning process? When we don't yet understand and we are using the scientific method, trial and error. I'm going to switch that phone off now, hopefully. Trying to switch it off. Not easy to do, hang on. Why are multiple theories developed? Right, so this is the notion of what are the benefits of them, but this is at a more general sense of that knowledge question. Why are these developed? Right? On the one hand, they're because they benefit our understanding. On the other hand, because they offer more practical or pragmatic solutions. From another viewpoint, they are able to accommodate for outliers, or they're, from another viewpoint, they're able to explain relationships between systems. So if you're defining the world as a composite of interacting systems, then that would be useful. When we don't yet understand and we are using the scientific method, trial and error, testing different theories before arriving at any conclusive theory. So that's when we don't yet understand, right? So that's that notion in understanding of the world. Are you going to define that notion in terms of we don't yet quite fully understand it, and we are seeking understanding, and therefore we, in the process of seeking that understanding, we need to retain and hold on to a multiplicity of theories. You understand the nuance there? When the world we are trying to understand, or is it when the world we are trying to understand involves lots of complex interactions and can be viewed from different perspectives? Do you understand the difference in these two, and how you would articulate and structure that difference in the development of your essay? The notion of retainment implies its counter. So if you're going to be looking at counter arguments, then possibly you can look in this direction. Why are theories discarded? When are they discarded? Under what circumstances do theories become discarded? Is there any principle in theoretical discussions and theoretical research on theory itself, and research on the philosophy of scientific thinking? That stuff there, which helps you to understand the process by which theories are kept, discarded, developed. So there's stuff there that you can be talking about inside your essay. When do we or should we use multiple theories to understand the world? That's basic. When is a single theory more beneficial to use? That's a counter-argument. Why do we tend to seek single theory explanations? Are there fallacies of a single overarching theory? So you could be looking at deontology and these kinds of aspects. Single explanation offered by a supernatural power, authoritative thinking. These are the fallacies that lead us to a single theory of explanation. Maybe it's a natural thing in common knowledge and common understanding, popular understanding, versus expertise-based understanding, experts in their fields. That type of understanding isn't prone to these kinds of fallacies, but popular understanding, the understandings that lay people often gravitate to, might be prone to fallacy in single theory. Right. So anyway, or on the other hand, could it be that a single theory is equated to the simplest explanation? And the simplest explanation, when we look at Occam's razor defines the simplest explanation as the one that we ought to go for, right? So if you were going to say that there are limitations to theory and therefore we need to retain multiplicity of theory, then are you flying in the face of Occam's razor? Is that a counter-argument to Occam's razor? So then you would have Occam's razor there located in the structure of your essay as well. And you might even arrive at the conclusion of, no, Occam's razor still stands. However, in these certain types of cases, we do need to retain a multiplicity of theory. What are those certain types? Well, it might be limited to when we are actually still seeking explanation, or when we are dealing with complexes of systems. Right, so what's this? How do multiple theories benefit our understanding? I think I've talked about that already. How are explanatory and predictability powers of theories enhanced or diminished by using them together? This is more precise KQs, and I think you definitely want to be getting into this level of the structuring of your argument, but I want you to understand that these terms here, explanatory, predictability, those are much more specific terms that you would find in research on theory and on scientific thinking and the philosophy of science and the philosophies involved in interdisciplinary studies. So once you do that research, you will then start to come up with these more specific terms, and even terms like evidence itself or fact. These more specific terms, which are located within the context of more general terms such as theory and multiplicity of theory and single theory. You can construct your KQs of those general terms of the title, or upon deeper thinking, or during the development of your essay argument and structure, or inside your research, you will find these more specific terms, and then you can use those to develop your KQ and conclude. You can arrive at these more specific nuances inside the argument towards the end of the essay, and then arrive at this very powerful KQ like this, which is then answerable inside the conclusion of the essay. Right? But it requires all the rest of the essay in order to arrive at, and then to be able to wrap up in the conclusion. So how are different theories retained during our attempts to understand the world? When a theory is discarded, already done. But I really like this one here. How are explanatory and predictability powers of theories enhanced or diminished by using them together? But you would need to arrive at this KQ through the discussion, or a KQ similar to it. All right? Thank you very much. I hope that helped.